Hey, everybody, it's Adnan Burke from ESPN, and you're listening to two of my favorites, Graham and Chris, out of left field right now.
Hey, guys, Graham and Chris back here with you again. We were off last week for Father's Day. Hope everyone had a great Father's Day. I want to remind you that we are brought to you by the Grueling Truth Network and also sponsored by MLB Mayhem. Find them on Twitter at MLB Mayhem and Facebook as well, MLB Mayhem on the search bar. And, of course, at Grueling Truth on Twitter and thegruelingtruth.net. My brother, I appreciate you putting up the article last week, which we will get into in the latter part of the show today. But happy Father's Day to you officially on the show. Hope you had a great weekend and had a chance to spend some time with your loving family.
I did. Yeah, I had a good time last week. Hung out here at the house, went out, did a couple things with the wife and the daughter, and this is the thing. This is the thing that kills me about Father's Day, right? So on Mother's Day, I feel like my job as a father is to shield my wife from having to do anything motherly, right? She shouldn't have to take care of the kids. She shouldn't have to cook. She shouldn't have to clean. All those really stereotypical mother things. Even like she shouldn't have to go to the store and deal with a 7-year-old. So I do all of those things on Mother's Day. I do them all the time, but I make sure to go to the store and deal with.
So you go to the store on Mother's Day and deal with yourself for your wife.
Yes, but then on Father's Day, I feel like the whole purpose of Father's Day is I have to prove I'm the best dad in the world. Like I have to prove I earned the coffee cup. You know what I mean? The number one dad coffee cup.
Right.
I do the same thing. I cook, I clean, I make my own Father's Day dinner. I take care of the kid, and Father's Day ends up becoming another day off for my wife somehow.
Well, I mean, to be fair, she did carry your daughter for like 10 months. So, I mean, it's kind of sort of fair. You know, I get that it's not like –
not 10 months, 41 weeks.
What's that?
41 weeks.
Okay.
She was 41 weeks pregnant.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit – you were, I think, deployed at that time, so we hadn't had a chance – we hadn't talked a whole hell of a lot. At that point,
I was home for 2 days before she popped.
Right.
On leave.
But you know, I mean, we look at it as you don't want to bug her on Mother's Day. You don't want to bug her in the delivery room. You probably bugged her during conception. So I mean, end of the day, she probably deserves an extra day.
Yeah, she might. Who knows?
So after that odd, another beautiful tangent that always comes straight out of left field from Chris and myself. Let's put the ball in play and do a quick rundown of the MLB standings. All is relatively the same from last time we talked. As far as on top of the divisions, Yankees are holding on by the slimmest of threads. If this is a Disney movie, it's Hercules. The witches have the scissors like right there at the thread, and it's just about to get snipped. But 2-8 in their last 10. It's been they lost 7 straight. They're just not clicking. And a lot of it has to do with pitching. We've seen some injuries. Sabathia's obviously hurt. Tanaka is just a home run machine, which is great if you're a hitter, but really sucks when you're a pitcher. Unless you're Madison Bumgarner, then maybe you might just be on the hitting side of things. And it's cool.
It's possible.
But the Red Sox, Rays, all right there in contention. The odd thing here is if the season were to stop today, we would have 3 teams from a single division in each league make the playoffs. 3 teams from the AL East and 3 teams from the NL West.
And the stranger thing about the AL East that isn't mirrored in the NL West is that none of the 5 teams in the AL East are really out of contention at this point. Even the last place Toronto Blue Jays are only 5 games out of first place and 2.5 games out of the wild card at this point. So there's not really a team in that league.
There's no fifth-place
team.
Yeah, there's no fifth-place team because the O's and the Blue Jays are tied. So we've got one. Well, we've kind of got a one. Really, 1 and 2 are the same because the Red Sox and the Yankees are separated by
they're
one.
Tied. They're actually tied for first place.
Right.
You have the Red Sox and the Yankees tied for first place. Baltimore and Toronto tied for third place, and you have Tampa Bay sitting either right in the middle in third place. And don't let Tampa Bay fool you. They are right in contention with the same number of wins as the New York Yankees. What's interesting to me, though, is what's going on in the middle of the country. And what's going on in the middle of the country is finally the Cleveland Indians have taken control of that division. And that's what they've needed to do all season. We expected it from them, but the Twinkies have been having a really great one. They've moved down
Cooper's
into
back. Had a great return. I mean, that's a huge shot in the arm for that Indians team. And like you know,
Kansas
the
City's
Royals
still
are still close, but it's not going to be long.
But then you get a precipitous drop-off. The Chicago White Sox, Detroit Tigers, they're not playing well. They're 7 and 7.5 games back, respectively. Meanwhile, over in the West, Houston, we don't have a problem.
No, we certainly do not.
First to 30, first to 40, first to 50. I expect them first to 60. I really think that team's going to win 95-plus this year, maybe even 100-plus this year. I certainly expect them to just dominate this league.
How scary is that 4 of their 5 starting pitchers are on the DL? Keuchel is out. McCullers is out. And their offense is so high-powered that, in a 12-7 game against an Oakland team who shouldn't be that strong, they're able to go ahead and out-hit guys. I mean, it's just we're seeing things from this team that bodes very well for them come October.
And we're looking at a team that's on a 4-game winning streak right now, but is only 6-4 in their last 10. And that 6-4 in their last 10 is great. They're playing 600 baseball. You think, oh, my team's playing 600 baseball. They're doing fantastic. But they're only playing 600 baseball because 4 of their 5 starters are on the DL. If all 5 of their starters were healthy and pitching right now, you'd probably see an Astros team at 9-1 in their last 10 right now.
Right. And the Stros still one of only 2 teams in the majors to have not lost double-digit games on the road. The other is the Twins. But here's an odd thing about that Minnesota team. They're sub-500 at home. They're 16-25 at home. It's one of those backwards stories in the game, I think, that we've seen. And you mentioned the White Sox, where they are probably going to be sellers to a team who is leading that National League East and the Nationals. Nationals, they're 43-29. You got a commanding 9-game lead. The problem is that bullpen is atrocious. You can't trust them. We saw them blow a 6-0 lead to Miami earlier this week. Max Scherzer pushed it deep into a game, and I get he's throwing a no-hitter at 120-plus pitches, but it's one of those things where he's your workhorse, and you feel like you can trust Max Scherzer. And while Dusty Baker won't say it, that bullpen is a huge reason as to why they've lost that game and why Scherzer allowed no earned runs and took a loss.
Yeah, and look, you're talking about a team who's having similar issues to what you're seeing in Minnesota, right? You're talking about the Washington Nationals are only 4 games over 500 at home, and they're 10 games over 500 on the road. Something's going on. And like you said, it's bullpen. But luckily for the Washington Nationals, who are starting to have these bullpen struggles, starting to lose those close games, they had a commanding lead on the National League East, just like the Houston Astros have a commanding lead on the American League West. So they can do a little bit of a slide. Those are the only 2 teams in baseball right now who are firmly in control of their division, because it certainly isn't Milwaukee in the Central. They're only 3 games up on the Cubs, and trust me, the Cubs are coming for them. And St. Louis is only 4 games behind the Cubs, and they are certainly going to come for the Cubs if they can work out their issues, their own pitching issues, their own bullpen problems, and, their own problems at the plate as well.
I think, end of the day, like we said a couple of weeks ago after the kind of the fire sale of personnel, I don't think the Cubs have too many glaring holes to fix all of them. I mean, the ship is on the way down, and you can plug a couple and maybe make it float a little bit longer to get the life rafts off.
The Cards.
The Cards. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, they're plugging enough holes you can keep the ship afloat and get the life rafts off. But I don't think it's enough to actually keep the ship upright and get it to port. It's just not going to happen in St. Louis.
Well,
let's look at this. Unfortunately for you,
look at this real quick.
Okay,
let's look at this real quick.
Because I was going to go west, and I know you want to stay away from the west as long as possible.
Because Milwaukee's on top of the Central with 40 wins. Washington's on top of the East with 43 wins. You've got Cleveland on top of their Central Division with 39 wins, and Boston and the Yankees with 39 and 40 respectively. Tampa Bay also has 39, leading that American League East. But only in the American League West and the National League West, do you see teams even sniffing 50 wins at this point? The Astros hit their 50th win yesterday, but the LA Dodgers, Arizona Diamondbacks, and Colorado Rockies are all within 4 games of 50 wins right now. Dodgers at 48, Rockies at 47, and the Arizona Diamondbacks out of nowhere at 46 wins. So what's going on in the rest of the league, or maybe what's going on in the West with these 3 teams?
Well, the Dodgers came in, I think we both agreed. Right. I mean, the Dodgers came in, we both agreed, as kind of a clear-cut favorite for that division. We just thought the Giants were going to end up being a team that pushed them, and it ends up being the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. The Diamondbacks started off strong. They're 26-9 at home, best home record in baseball by far. Again, as we mentioned, the Astros, they have single-digit losses on the road. Only team with single-digit losses at home are those Arizona Diamondbacks at Chase Field. They're looking strong, 20-18 on the road. They're a game and a half behind, tied with the Rockies. What's surprising me is the Rockies have dropped 2 in a row. They're 6-4 in the last 10. We're seeing a little bit of ebb and flow here in Colorado. A lot of young kids. The question with Colorado's going to be
fair, though,
are they going to be so naive and ignorant that they just don't know what's happening and they push through, or does the pressure finally begin to crack them a little bit? I still think at the end of the day, you're probably looking at least 2 of these teams in the postseason, still potentially and most likely going to be, I think the Rockies can probably edge out Milwaukee, as the Cubs will take the Central come the end of September.
To be fair to the Colorado Rockies, those 2 losses in this last week have been to an Arizona Diamondbacks team who are 9-1 in their last 10. So you can't really take too much away from them. If they win that game, if they win the game tomorrow that I'm going to, they're going to have a 10-game. They're going to have a 9-1 run and be well on their way into another winning streak. It'll be their 3rd win. Nothing like the winning streak the Dodgers are on right now at 7 straight. But like I said, to be fair to the Colorado Rockies, they lost to a really hot Arizona Diamondbacks team.
Yeah, and that's what we'll need to look at as we get ready to move out of this is can the Dodgers or can the Rockies and the D-backs exchange blows consistently throughout the year because of this off-balance scheduling that has so much divisional play that we've discussed so many times? If they can trade punch for punch, then it'll be a little bit more even, and we'll see these guys stay neck and neck coming down the pike. If they don't, we're going to see a precipitous drop, I think, for one of those 2 teams. The Rockies probably going to end up being on the short end of that stick, in my opinion.
Let me ask you a question, and this is just off the top of my head. I know this isn't something we talked about beforehand, but in your opinion, you and I both discussed about that we don't like interleague play, that we wish interleague play didn't exist. Would you prefer to see Major League Baseball go back to a system with no interleague play and see divisional games get dispersed more widely throughout the season, and also maybe play a fewer divisional games and spread those other games that would be interleague games out among other teams in the National or American League within their own league?
The problem with changing interleague is now you've got 15 teams in each league, so you're offset. That's what really screwed things up, is when the Astros moved to the AL, it messed everything up. Instead of being 16-14, now you have the odd number where someone always has to have an off day. So it kind of screws things up. I don't mind interleague play. I think it's enjoyable, especially like someone like you who only has an NL team. Aside from spring training, you get a chance to see a couple more guys. I think it's one of those things that if you have 30 teams, if you've already changed interleague play, let every team play every team. Let a team be in every city throughout the year so that everyone has a chance to see Mike Trout in the National League. Everyone can see Bryce Harper in the American. Let everyone see that. Don't kind of say, okay, well, you guys are going to play the American League East and a couple of things. No, everyone is going to travel everywhere. I get it kind of changes from the old school way, but I'm okay with that.
And see, so my problem with interleague play, obviously, is that I like going into a World Series between 2 teams who have never seen each other. I think It makes the game great. And the way interleague play is set up right now, that's still a possibility. If you're only playing the American League Central as a National League West team, then if you go into the World Series against the National League or American League East, you haven't seen that team this year.
Exactly.
That's the situation we're going to run into this season. If 3 teams from each of those divisions go to the playoffs, you can reasonably assume one of them has a pretty good opportunity to get deep into the playoffs, possibly to the World Series. So you could see a team from each of those divisions who haven't seen each other this year play against each other without having seen each other. But the only thing that is the sort of redeeming quality about interleague play for me is exactly what you said. I get to see Justin Verlander pitch. I got to see Justin Verlander pitch this year, which isn't something that me being in Arizona, I'm going to be able to see very often because he's only here every 6 years or 8 years. And, who knows if he's going to be in the league 8 years from now? Probably not.
Right. I mean, for me, I want a chance to see Dallas Keuchel face off against Max Scherzer. I want to see what happens there. I want to see an offense of the Stros. Now, granted, again, that possibility, because of those strong teams, we may see them end up playing in the World Series. But let's say, for example, it's a Jason Vargas who's pitching great for Kansas City, and Max Scherzer. I mean, so I understand. My dad again feels the same way as you do. It's why you guys get along. He wants things back where they were. I've gone as far as to say I wish we would get one World Series game in the afternoon. It just, I know it kind of throws it off. You want that prime time, but just to, see a game in the sunlight. You're at work. I can watch the game while I'm working. Sorry, boss, nothing's going to get done today, but I'm going to be here. Just pay me to watch some baseball is all I want.
Or listen to it on the radio.
There you go.
In the middle of the afternoon while you're driving around at work or whatever. Yeah,
yep,
I agree.
Exactly.
I completely agree. You know what I don't agree with?
I'm going to go with the length of time that it took for Major League Baseball to finally hand Hunter Strickland his 6-game appeal or 6-game suspension and overturn the appeal. I'm going to go with that one because I'm kind of still pissed off on that myself.
That is exactly what I don't agree with. Look, Bryce Harper was good enough to drop his appeal, take his reduced sentence, sit his games, and get it over with. But what is up with Major League Baseball not even scheduling an appeal for Hunter Strickland for 2 weeks, and then taking a week and a half to get back with a verdict on that appeal? Hunter Strickland got to play the entire month of June with no punishment. Now he's going to sit out the first 6 days or the last 6 days of June. And how is that a punishment for what he did? I don't think it's fair. And I don't just think that it's not fair.
And on the bright side, at least he blew a save. I mean, he did blow a save and lose a game. Again, much to your chagrin, I get it. But, I mean, if that's not at least a little bit of baseball god justice right there, then nothing is.
Yeah, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Right,
but,
exactly.
So this is the thing, though. Bryce Harper drops his appeal, gets 1 game knocked off of his 4-game suspension, serves 3. That is how you encourage players not to appeal suspensions. You reduce them when they decide not to do it. You don't encourage players not to appeal suspensions by taking a month to mete out justice. Because now they know, hey, I get to play the rest of this month, and then I'll sit my 3 or 4 games, and then I'll come back, and then everything will be cool.
And if you're an Astros player, or let's say a Nationals pitcher who's, I've either got to wait to face the Phillies, and I can appeal and then drop it and face the Phillies, or I can go ahead and take it now, and I have to sit out a game against the Dodgers.
Right.
I mean, the problem with the appeal process is it ends up being used as a way to circumvent the circumstance and the punishment to go ahead and make it fit your ball club as good as possible. So yeah, I'm still going to lose some money either way. I get it, but if I can help the ball club win an extra game or two, that could be pretty big. And that's where I agree with you. And the problem is, because something that we were always told in the Army is don't complain about the problem. Be a part of the solution. The problem is I don't know what the solution is here. I mean, You have to have an appeal process, but at what point you can't say, okay, well, you got to sit out till it's heard. Otherwise, if that's the case, and it needs to be an immediate. Okay, I mean, you're never going to see it completely overturned. So what do you have them sit immediately and then hear them? The next day? I mean, the problem is that you can't, there's no way to do this to serve the player the right way without going ahead and running the risk of having them wait longer for the appeal to be heard than actually the appeal takes to be handed down and served.
I think that there's no problem with expecting the league to be able to get to an appeal within 3 days. I don't see any issue with that, because what else is the league doing that they can't handle a single appeal in 3 days? I think that what the league needs to do is they need to commit to hearing an appeal within 3 days of it having been filed and having an answer to that appeal 2 days following that. It should be a 5-day process from the date that you appeal, and you have to appeal.
I think that's generous.
Yeah,
especially for on-field stuff. Off the field, right. I get it because you need to do your due diligence. But on field, when you've got cameras all around, 5 days is generous as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's even beyond what they need. You get your arbiter, you get your union rep. I think within 2 days you should hear it, and it shouldn't take that long to go ahead and hand it down. I think realistically 3, maybe 4.
For on-field stuff, I think you're right. You hear the appeal within 3 days, and you get the answer that day. The day you hear the appeal. Because, look, you can talk about the justice system, any justice system, all you want, but the people who are hearing this appeal are going to go into this having seen every single angle of that play. Every single possible explanation has already been explained on every single media outlet in the world. Right. I'm not going to say they're going to go in there with their minds made up, but they're going to go in there with preconceived notions. So exactly. It's not like they're going to be able to, unless you say something that absolutely just blows them out of the water. And if you do, then your appeal is heard and you win. But realistically, Hunter Strickland was wrong. He knew he was going to get suspended. He knew the suspension was going to get upheld. That shouldn't have taken more than 2 days. He should have appealed, heard it the next day, gotten his decision that day.
Right. And I think he would have gotten at least a little bit more respect to say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take it. When the captain of your team and Buster Posey and your skipper are both saying, I don't know what the hell he was thinking, that was clearly personal and wrong, just go ahead and own it. Just own it and say, okay, here it is.
Yeah, no, he probably deserved to get punched in the face, and that's why I wasn't going to get involved in that fight. I mean, he didn't say that, but come on. That was the body language on the field.
Right. To me, I think he would have actually gained a little bit more respect, and granted, not that I don't think he cares, and I don't think anybody would gain a whole hell of a lot more, but just take it. I mean, there was no reason to uphold or to overturn it, and had they, I would have been even more incensed. On the bright side, though, as much as we're annoyed about that arm on your San Francisco Giants, the good news is that Madison Bumgarner has taken a step forward. He has finished pitching a simulated game, is set to face live batters here, I believe, either it was the end of this week or early into next week, and should be returning to the ball club rather very soon, which is obviously way too little, too late. Not that it mattered; they weren't staying that close when he was there, but at least he will be back and pitching for San Francisco.
Right. So he tossed the simulated game on Wednesday, and he's going to throw 3 innings of a rehab assignment this weekend, which is huge news, right?
Is he in Sacramento for that? I haven't seen the assignment. Is he going to be in Sacramento?
I didn't see either. I just says all I have is that he's throwing 3 innings during a rehab assignment. It could be that he's going to do it at the AA level, because they're in. The Giants are across the country right now.
It will be in the low A level is what I'm saying.
Low A level?
Be in Arizona because everything's happening at the spring training facility. It does make it easier. According to Bruce Bochy, everything goes well. He will get a start for Single A San Jose or Triple A Sacramento. Everything right now is looking like the 3-inning appearance will be for the Giants affiliate in the rookie level Arizona League. And if that goes well, then we'll go Single A or Triple A, and that should go ahead and put him up back into the rotation. So a good possibility we will see number 40 before the All-Star break.
Well, Bochy says that he doesn't think he's coming back before the All-Star break. He won't be back in the starting rotation before the All-Star break. He might be back on the bench by then, ready to go. But I'd be surprised if we saw him before the All-Star game.
I think that's a smart move by Bochy, though. If it was me, you've got nothing to gain by returning him.
And Bochy is impressed with his recovery at this point. He said just the other day that he watched him throw off the mound, and he was really impressed by the way he's letting it go. It doesn't seem like the arm's bothering him really at all. So, as long as he can get back to form, then, I think it's obviously it's not going to do anything for us this year, but it'll be good to have him back from injury.
Without a doubt, and it's something that, like I said, they want him back. They want that piece there, but it's not going to have a difference on the outcome of that season, and that's why, again, I think Bochy is wise to hold him out. You gain nothing by bringing him back too soon. Let him pitch off the off the bullpen mound, keep him get himself ready, and then go from there. Same thing in injury-related news on a guy returning who we discussed a few weeks back on the show with Chip Carey. And, of course, you can find all of our shows on our Facebook page, Out of Left Field, with Chris and Graham, of course, at OO Left Field on Twitter. Freddie Freeman for the Braves is due back shortly, okay, after he had the issue with the wrist that was broken after he got hit. And it's looking like that he should be back probably in the next maybe 2 to 4 weeks. Still going to be a little bit of time. But the Braves acquired several pieces to try and fill that hole at first. And they found a guy named Matt Adams from the St. Louis Cardinals who has somehow caught fire. The odd thing was it wasn't like he was doing poorly. He was hitting .292 in St. Louis with a .735 OPS. Comes to Atlanta. So now, granted, I'm going to give you these numbers, and they're equal. 31 games each. He has about 3 times the plate appearances in Atlanta. But right now he's got 37 base hits, 12 dingers. He's driven in 31. He's got 9 walks, 28 Ks. Not too shabby. Okay, 1-to-3 ratio. I'll take that for a guy who's hitting .298 with an OPS of 1.009, slugging to .661, which is, by and large, his career high all across the board. Guy is playing fantastic. The Cardinals are wondering, what in the hell are we doing wrong? Who did we piss off coming into 2017 to be treated like this? So I say all that because Freddie Freeman has now said that in all seriousness, he is considering and has made mention to the Braves front office a couple of weeks ago about shifting to the hot corner. And, honestly, who would have pictured a team star player, the biggest piece in that organization, willing to make a move that big from first to third? I haven't watched him throw. I don't know what his arm is going to be from there. But, that's the epitome of unselfishness. If Freeman's willing to move over there, if they're going to give Adams an extension in Atlanta and have 2 big pieces on the corners in that ball club, he's got to be looking at the bigger picture, which I tip my cap to a guy that young for doing for a ball club who has been seriously struggling for the last decade.
Well, obviously Freddie Freeman is the heartbeat of that Braves team, and watching him go down was rough, especially for Braves fans. But it's rough for baseball. Talking about a guy who broke his hand at a time when he was hitting .341. He had 14 dingers, 25 ribbies, and he only played 37 games. So if he can come back and get back on that pace at the plate, then you got to figure he's going to be given a long leash at third base to get used to that position, get comfortable over there. And at the end of the day, Freddie Freeman is an athlete, and he's a damn good athlete. And he has played third base before. This won't be his first time. He's not just moving over there with no experience. He played in high school at third base, and he played professionally in 2007. He played 5 games at third base in the Gulf Coast League as a rookie. The thing that is impressive to me, like you said, is this is his thing, right? This is something he's willing to do. It's not like, fine, if you need me to do it, I'll do it. His exact words are, and I quote, "I said I'm completely on board with it, want to do it. We got to keep Matt's bat in the lineup, and I'll do anything to win, so this is what we came to."
Yeah,
that's exactly what a baseball player
not begrudging at all. Yeah, not begrudging at all. I love that.
That's exactly what a baseball player needs to sound like when moves are made that are going to benefit the team that realistically, because this isn't a position he's played for a long time, could hurt his numbers defensively. You can't imagine he's going to move over there and be a Gold Glove third baseman based on this move. But if he goes over there and plays well, then, he's done nothing but help this team, and that's what it's all about, winning games.
Yeah, and like I said, for a kid who is 27 years old, to have that kind of mentality, it just blows me away. We talk about the difficult player, kind of the diva player, for lack of a better term, and he's not. He wants to help this team win. Obviously the Braves locked him up. He knows
the world.
Yeah, he knows he's going to be here. Although, if they want to move him, they can. It's not like he's on a Giancarlo Stanton type contract, but he wants to be here and he wants to see his team improve and be a contender. And I tip my cap to him for that. It's going to be good to have him back. We'll see how much the wrist, causes him issues at the plate. Other thing you got to think of is he is not fielding as many balls on the ground at first as he will.
Right.
The last thing you want to have is the ball hit that wrist while he's going to field and cause more damage. That'd be the one thing I'm a little worried about. But at the end of the day, you can't play the game worried about injury. You just can't. So he's going to come out there. He's going to work his tail off. And at the end of the day, it's going to end up being a good thing for the Braves, I think, because you're going to have two good bats in that lineup that you need power-wise. Now you start chipping away at the other small things, trying to fit pieces in the puzzle, start polishing it, put the glue on, and then make a run.
He'll get more ground ball work at third base than he will at first base, but he's definitely not going to get more glove work. So I don't know that I'm so totally worried about that. It would have to be a bad hop type ground ball in order for me to worry about him getting hit in the wrist and it causing more damage. So, like you said, you can't play the game and be afraid of that. If you were afraid that you were going to take a bad hop every time you walked out on the field, you'd be a terrible, terrible infielder. So good luck to him. I hope it works out for him. I hope it works out for the Braves, because if it does, this could be a boon to them.
Without a doubt. And it'll be good. Like I said, obviously being a Braves fan growing up, my parents still watch the Braves religiously. It'll definitely be something that's going to be good. Coming up next, the Cubs have moved a huge piece from that World Series team last year down to the minor leagues, put somebody else in the DL, and is Anthony Rizzo a dirty player? All that next after these words from Replenishing Technologies here on Out of Left Field.
Replenishing Technologies helps athletes of all levels train, recover, and perform at their absolute best. We do this by offering the PEMF 120, the world's leading pulsed electromagnetic field therapy device. Workouts, injury, and stress cause cells to lose their natural power. PEMF works like a battery charger, helping cells regain the power needed to dump toxins, take in oxygen and nutrients, and repair. 95% of athletes report less pain, increased range of motion, more energy, and they simply feel better after using PEMF 120. If you'd like to count yourself among that group, contact us at www.replenishingtechnologiesinc.com.
And we're back after the break, and you said something right before the break about a huge piece from that World Series team, and really not just a huge piece offensively or defensively, because he was gone for a lot of the season, so he didn't really have a chance to be that. But what Kyle Schwarber really represented for that World Series team, especially in the World Series, was an emotional piece, right? He was that one story. He was that one story you get every year, right, where it's just something crazy. And it was Kyle Schwarber last year. He went down on the DL early in the year. He was gone almost all year. And he comes back and plays
second
in the
game
World
of the
Series.
year, I think. Blue is second game of the year.
Yeah, and he comes back, and he comes back into the World Series, and he didn't blow us away in the World Series or throughout the playoffs, but he played well. Realistically, throughout throughout the playoffs, the entire playoffs, he played extremely well with a .412 batting average, on base of .500, slugging .471. I mean, he only had 2 ribbies, no dingers through that whole playoff series, but he was on base a lot.
Right.
And
which the surprising thing is, I mean, it's 7 hits in 17 at bats, but again, he said, he gets 3 walks, struck out 4 times. He was seeing it, but here's the odd thing, because I think we had some delusions of grandeur there of Kyle Schwarber because of that postseason performance. But let's look at the big picture on him, which the book is not very big, okay? Right. It's a book that you and I could take some crayons to and some pictures and actually understand. I mean,
it's a Marine book.
Even the Marines on Redstone that live next to us could understand this, okay? I'm going to totally get some hate mail for this, but
here's the big picture. He played 69 games in 2015, his first year in the league. He batted .246. This year in 2017, he's played in 64 games, has a similar number. He's only 12 plate appearances off of where he was, and he's hitting nearly 30 points below the Mendoza line at 171, on base at 295. At least in 2015, when he was not hitting real well at 246, his on pace was still 355. But his career batting average, it's 7 points above Mendoza, man. It's 207. So
and nearly a third
delusions of grandeur are right.
Yeah, and the thing is, nearly a third of his hits are dingers. But here's the odd thing. 38 total hits, 22 of those are extra basers. 10 dubs and 12 dingers. He's driven in 28. So, I mean, we have this great idea. And granted, he began his career as a catcher. And we're trying to put this guy in the outfield, which already kind of screws things up. But, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day –
outfield too.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, we have this expectation of what Kyle Schwarber is because of what we saw last year that might not be true. Now, everything that I have seen is an expectation that this is not expected to be long, but it's an idea to want to have him clear his head, just get out of his dome, figure out what's going on, and right the ship. Jason Hayward also has been placed on the DL, the left hand injury. I don't think it's going to end up being something very long. Mark Zagunis and Dylan Floro are expected to take the open roster spots. But the odd thing here is just it seemed like such a precipitous drop, but it's because, like I've said, everything is coming off what we saw in October. And what we saw in October is not who Kyle Schwarber is. It just isn't. So, I hope that what happens for him, that this short trip to AAA ends up being an Aaron Judge type of trip for him. That he goes down there, figures out what's going on. Hell, these guys are near the same age. Schwarber's 24. We got to Judge say, hey, what did you do? What happened? Especially come the offseason if this is still giving him some trouble. And maybe next year we get a comeback player of the year out of Schwarber, or we see him right the ship this year is what I hope.
Or maybe call Aaron Judge and say, hey, can I have the phone number to your batting coach? Because I'd really like to talk to him.
And here the odd thing is the Yankees wanted Schwarber back, but I believe that the Cubbies wanted Judge in return for Schwarber. They're like, nah, I think we're good.
No.
So it's just kind of ironic, just the way the chips have fallen. So, again, I don't think this is going to be long. It'll give him a chance to get down to AAA, kind of get things figured out. The AAA guys love it because that means they get a big leaguer down there. So the meals get better, the bills get picked up. Man, everybody's happy. But I mean, at the same time, he's only making about $500K. It's not like he can, he's not taking it out to, Ruth's Chris for a $50,000 dinner. But if he wants to take us out for that, I'm good with that, man. I'm good with, hey, Schwarber, give us a call.
And to be honest, there's probably a couple guys down in that AAA market who are on the 40-man roster who are making nearly that much themselves. So just to have a big leaguer down there who is a big leaguer really in name only, he's a 40-man roster type guy. And realistically, he's a 40-man roster type player. I mean, that's just what he's always been. I don't mean to take anything away from him, but he has a 000 batting average in 2016. So there's really no way to figure out if 2016's postseason was a fluke, or if 2016 postseason is who he can be and he just isn't living up to it, because there was no season to judge that postseason against.
Gotta love having the dog bark in the background. Sorry about that, guys. That's one of the views doing the podcast. At home, dog heard something, and I don't know. At least she wasn't licking her rear end. So
at least you're not.
We go ahead. Well, I mean, she was laying in the kitchen next to me, so I mean, I could tell. So as we go ahead and make the move, I mentioned this also prior to the break. Is Anthony Rizzo dirty? So if you haven't seen it by now, obviously there was a pretty lengthy discussion over the last couple of days about a collision that happened at Wrigley Field against the Padres where Rizzo ended up colliding with San Diego Padres catcher Austin Hedges. Now, he was called out because Hedges held onto the ball, but he was taken out of the game, so Hedges was obviously injured. And I was a little bit surprised, I guess, by the comments, is that here's what Andy Green, the manager of the Padres, said. Quote, "It's a fairly egregious violation of the rule. The rule exists to protect that catcher. The safety of the catcher is more in jeopardy now when you have the rule to protect you because you're not expecting to get hit. You've got to think like that. I think it's a cheap shot. I'm not saying he's a dirty player at all," referring to Rizzo. "No one is saying that. He clearly deviated from his path to hit our catcher and took our catcher out. The rule exists to protect him. It's a disheartening play," close quote. And I agree with everything he said because he's right. Rizzo is not a dirty player. He's not. He is one of the guys who, for the most part, plays the game the right way. Doesn't play with the reckless abandon. He's smart about what he does. He crowds the plate. He tends to get hit a lot, but for the most part, he's a guy who treats umpires, treats other players the right way. Very rarely do you see a guy get angry. And I was talking to somebody about this a couple of days ago, is that Rizzo is that guy that if he starts getting angry or starts mouthing off at an umpire for something, if you're an umpire worth your salt, you might stop and go, you know what? Maybe he's got a point, because they're not stupid players. They've got a pretty good feel of the strike zone, even if they're standing at it from the side. So he's one of those guys that normally will make you take pause for a second and go, okay, maybe I missed that one. He's that guy. But I do agree, and Major League Baseball agreed as well, this was a violation of the slide rule, but no suspension was going to be implemented for Anthony Rizzo on this play.
So I guess the only thing I can really say, Graham, about that is it's a violation of the rule, but they're not going to suspend him for us. So do me a favor, take us behind the mask and explain to me how a violation, such a clear violation, obviously, according to what Hedges said, of the rule cannot result in the punishment for that.
Well, the main thing here, and the hard part is this becomes a judgment call. There's really no way to tell it. And I had to watch the video several times to see this, but you do see him deviate a little bit more to the fair territory side of that fair foul line, about 10 feet or so from the plate. However, when he made that deviation, he had an open line to the plate. Hedges had not yet received the ball and was sitting more out in front of the plate to receive that throw, which he had to do on his knees to keep the ball from getting through his 5-hole. Okay? So he receives it. He turns. You and I have watched it, and obviously we debate it, and we may still debate it on the show. But there was maybe less than a 2-step reaction time for Hedges to go ahead, and there was no getting out of the way of him coming. So where it kind of gets messy is that the rule states, quote, and this is Rule 6.01, subsection I-1. Okay, and this is a quote from the MLB rulebook. A runner attempting to score may not deviate from his direct pathway to the plate in order to initiate contact with the catcher or other player covering home plate, or otherwise initiate an avoidable collision. If, in the judgment of the umpire, a runner attempting to score initiates contact with the catcher or other player covering home plate in such a manner the umpire shall declare the runner out regardless of whether the player covering home plate maintains possession of the ball. In such circumstances, the umpire shall call the ball dead. All other base runners shall return to the last base touched at the time of the collision. If the runner slides into the plate in an appropriate manner, he shall not be adjudged to have violated this rule, close quote. So here's where, if I'm Jeff Nelson, here's where I'm seeing it, okay? Yes, he deviated from his path. But when we look at that plate, that deviation gave him a wider opening to home plate, which was there when he originally made that step and a half inside of fair territory. He did not do that with the sole intent of at least in my judgment. I'm giving you the umpire lingo here of my judgment. I did not judge from seeing the replay multiple times, and I give Jeff Nelson credit for figuring this out in real time. But he did not initiate or try to initiate contact with Hedges. Yes, it happened. He didn't lower his shoulder. His hands didn't go out. He tried to slide something to he was trying to slow down his momentum because he's not Chris Coughlin and can't, jump over him like Coughlin did to Yadier Molina. So Hedges holds on to the ball. Nelson rules him out because the play ends like that, and you didn't see a whole lot of argument about this. Green didn't get ejected. So to me, it was one of those things where there was an open path to the plate. Yes, he cut the corner a little bit closer than he needed to. He had a lot more open space, speaking of Rizzo. But I do not see in that video him deviating in order to initiate contact. And to me, it's that wording in the rule, and I saw you nodding your head when I read that. He didn't try to initiate contact of an avoidable collision. There was, he didn't initiate an avoidable collision. It was one of those things where he was coming in on the front corner of the plate. A head first slide would have probably either sprained his neck, could have broken something, could have ended up concussed. At that point, it was one of those where, yes, he could have made a different choice in how he went to the plate, but you can see him trying to he wasn't trying to just bowl him over like we have seen so many times in baseball in the past. It was easily avoidable, but it was not. It did not violate the rule as far as trying to initiate an avoidable collision with Austin Hedges.
So the roundabout way of saying it is that outcome does not indicate intent in this situation, in this particular case. The outcome being a collision doesn't indicate that there was an intent to initiate a collision. And that's why there was no suspension issued. You have to right. They would have to be able to see that Rizzo intended to hit Hedges in order for them to say that not only did he violate the rule, but he violated it in an egregious enough way that he's going to be suspended for it.
Right. And as I'm actually watching it now while you were saying that, and one of the things that, and I had heard this on MLB Network and a couple of guys saying that it wasn't so much that he was trying to make contact, it was that he kind of got caught in that position of, oh, where am I going to go? And at first, it actually looked like, and again, I'm trying to get way more into a hitter's head or in a runner's head, than you want to. But again, this is, guys, I want you to understand, this is the problem with this rule, in my opinion, is how much judgment you put on the umpires to enforce it. You have to get into a player's head and then determine what was he trying to do. And as I'm looking at this, once Hedges grabs the ball and he's turning, I almost feel like Rizzo thought he was going to almost take that entire baseline away from him, and he was trying to kind of circumvent to the outside, almost onto that right shoulder of Hedges in fair territory to go around instead of coming how we normally see guys come in foul territory. And then it kind of just Hedges froze and Rizzo froze, and then he had nowhere to go but directly into him. And I think that's why Major League Baseball can easily say, yes, he violated the rule, but we're not going to put any punishment down because it wasn't that kind of trying to hurt him type play.
Can we just get a really quick shout out to Scherzer on that layout throw from center field that gunned Rizzo down at the plate? That was a fantastic throw.
Yes, Caesar, that tip of your cap to Caesar. I mean, it's a beautiful throw all the way around. A little one hopper, and Hedges stops it. It was great. And again, I tip my cap to number 45, Jeff Nelson, the home plate umpire. He was there in great position, and hopefully, Hedges is okay. I think the beauty of it is, and you and I had mentioned this. I think I had messaged you. I said, so what's the over/under that Rizzo gets popped? And before the game, Andy Green said, we have no plans to retaliate. It's a baseball play. Baseball is ruled. That's it. We're moving on. And they never hit him. And maybe
it's sad that we have to ask that question, but especially in today's baseball environment, it's happening more and more often. It's becoming more and more regular part of the game. So you do have to ask that question. And I think both of us said, hey, I don't think they're going to hit Rizzo, just because I don't think that any of them think that Rizzo wanted to hurt Hedges. But baseball being in the state that it is now, it's not entirely impossible that he takes one in the ribs for having hit him. So kind of moving on, to put my final stamp on that, I don't think Rizzo's a dirty player. I think he's a fantastic baseball player, and I think he plays the game exactly the way I like to see baseball players play the game. But moving on, those of you guys who join us every week, and we appreciate you guys joining us every week, and those of you guys who don't join us every week, who maybe this is your first time listening to our podcast and want to get more information about what we've talked about in the past, where we're bringing up stuff from other shows, you can find us on Twitter at OO Left Field, and you can find us on Facebook at the Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham Facebook page. We're pretty active on there as much as we possibly can be. You can also hit us up and chat with us on the Out of Left Field baseball community on Facebook. Those of you who are with us every week know that last week we didn't put a show up. And we didn't put a show up because it was Father's Day. I was busy. Graham was busy. We had a lot going on. And we felt like Father's Day was a good time to take a day off. So we did. But we did post an article.
Yeah. And to be fair, and I want to be honest with you guys, we in that moment, we don't ever want to mail in a show to you guys. Right. And Chris and I both felt that with what was going on in our lives that day, that we didn't really have enough stuff going on to give you a show that was worthy of your time. Sometimes life gets in the way. This isn't our everyday job. This is what we do, that we love the game. So
nothing had happened in baseball last week.
Yeah, it had been a pretty quiet week.
Although, to be fair to us and to the game, that 45 minutes after we made that decision, Nolan Arenado capped off a cycle with a walk-off home run. So, To be fair, something exciting did happen last week in baseball. It just happened after we made the decision that there wasn't anything to talk about. And to be fair, we're not going to base an entire show on Nolan Arenado's amazing walk-off home 3-run shot to cap off a cycle. Right. But what we did do is Graham wrote an article.
That's what it gets to. Yep.
And so I just want to kind of set up this article a little bit. In the the middle 40 years of the 20th century, the New York Yankees owned baseball. They were America's team. They won championship after championship in the 20s. They won, 6 in the 50s. They were American team for about 40 years. And then they kind of went quietly underground and had ups and downs. They came back in the 70s, won two in the late 70s, and then they went back under in the 80s. And Derek Jeter came along, and they popped up, and they won 4 in that decade sort of time period. They won in 96, 98, 99, and 2000. And
they didn't win in 2000. They won in 96 or 90. They lost in 2000. Won again, I think, was it in 2009? That was what you're thinking of there. They won 3 back to back, and then ended up winning again. 2000, they made it, and they lost.
No, they won 3 back to back in 98, 99, and 2000. It's 2001 that they didn't go.
Okay, I thought you said 97. That's what threw me off. Okay, that's my fault.
They won in 96. They won in 96, 98, 99, and 2000.
I got you there.
That is dynastic.
Yep.
Their wins 1939, 1941, 43, 47, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 56, 58, 61, 62 is uber dynastic, right? That's a 20-year period in which they won 18 titles. That's insane, right? I mean, the Yankees represent the dynasty in baseball, and so the question that Graham sought to answer was, are we going to have another one? And so I'll let you explain a little bit about what you mean by dynasty, what qualifies, and why you think we will or won't.
That's really the big question, is the dynasty dead in baseball? Chris has given you one team who has, and God knows we've heard it, they've won 26 titles, blah, 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 blah. But there was a time in history that the Yankees were, I mean, a team that that win in a way that we'll never see again. So the question then became, is the dynasty in baseball dead? The Warriors have won in a way that we think is going to be dynastic. So what is a dynasty? And Chris was very happy when I wrote this, and it was the first article I've written for the Grueling Truth. Like you said, the Yankees at the 50s. You can say the 20s to the 60s. You had the Big Red Machine, the Oakland A's of the 70s, the Yanks of the 90s. And then you get into this big lull. Now, granted, as I mentioned, the Braves won 14 straight divisional titles. But, I mean, there was one World Series. It's not a dynasty. To me, a dynasty, as we look at it, is a team that is winning multiple championships, more than 2 championships, usually in a 5 to 6 year span, which to Chris's joy means the Giants. 10, 12, 14. They won 3 in that 5 year span. So the Cubs, as we have discussed really quite a bit today, you and I thought the Cubs, everyone thought the Cubs were, man, this is a dynasty that's built to win. They're going to be on top for a while, right? I mean, they've got all these good pitchers, got bats, and now what's happened is the Cubs have been struggling all year. So can a dynasty in this day and age of the game really be built anymore? I don't think so. I don't see how it can be. You're looking at baseball in a way now that there is so much parity that comes in this game because, I mean, the construct of the game doesn't really allow for dynasties to flourish. It's a 162 game grind. I mean, we're seeing guys like you said, the Astros, 4 out of their 5 starters on the DL. Guys getting broken wrists. Mike Trout jamming his thumb. Kevin Kiermaier breaking his hip. It's consistent, right? So, I mean, you and I gave our divisional title picks beginning of the year. We don't look all that great right now. Just saying.
No, I mean, we look terrible.
I mean, okay, yeah, we had the Nationals up there. We have the Indians. I mean,
and the Dodgers.
Granted, the teams we have on top are there, but the way that we really talked about seeing this season play out, we are so freaking off, man. I mean, talk about our picks are out of left field. No crap, Sherlock. Our picks are so far. Like, our picks are in the rooftop seats beyond Wrigley Field. They were so rough. And that's the way that baseball works, is there really is no way to really have a season like a foregone conclusion. The NFL, the NBA, it always feels like that, at least for me. And I'm not a diehard fan of either one of those leagues, but I enjoy watching, their product. And for the last decade-ish, it's felt for the most part like a foregone conclusion. Sure, there may be upsets, but I'll ask you, Chris, do you think, is the dynasty dead in the game today? Is baseball really going to have, aside from that all the stars line up and you just happen to find those pieces that gel and you have control over for long enough, is there really a way that a club today can really create and develop a dynasty that can last for even half a decade?
Well, I would say that the closest thing we've got in our modern era right now, other than the three-peat of the Yankees in the 90s, 98, 99, 2000, which is the Yankees' third three-peat, by the way. I don't know. I think the Giants were the closest thing we were going to get, right? Three titles in 5 years. I think that, we see the Oakland Athletics win three in a row in the 1970s. But what you're saying about the Cubs is so true. The Cubs win 103 games last year, and you expect, man, they really killed it. They're going to come back and do this again next year. They're going to win 100-plus games, and they're going to go to the World Series, and they're going to win. And then they're going to do it the year after that because they have all these young kids locked up for such a long time. But that's just not how baseball works anymore, and that's what I was really trying to explain to one of the other guys on the Grueling Truth Network named Malik, that when you look at baseball, right, and you want to start judging what teams are doing, it doesn't make sense to your brain to say that a small sample size is a better way to get an idea of what a club is doing. But realistically, it is. A large sample size in baseball allows for too much in and out, right? And you take 2 full seasons, like the Cubs, and you say, well, look at what they did last year. That's what they're going to do this year. You can't do that. Past performance does not predict future performance in a way in baseball that is viable. So,
and that's why I can't say the Red Sox were a viable dynasty, because you win in 2004, you win in 2007, but then there's this huge lull until 2013 when you win that third title. And even with your Giants, we see, okay, they were good, they rebuilt. They were great, they rebuilt. They were great, they rebuilt. The Royals go back-to-back to the World Series, they win 1. The Rangers go back-to-back, they win none.
And especially in baseball, right? And especially in baseball. 162 games. It's a long, grueling season. Anything can happen. If one guy goes down, your team's season could go down the tube. A Mike Trout type player goes down. I mean, there's sometimes no recovering from that. A Madison Bumgarner goes down. There's sometimes no recovering from that. And that's what you see in baseball. These guys play 162 games. They spend sometimes 2, maybe 3 stints on the 10-day DL, and suddenly that team's not looking so great.
Your season gone.
Right. Yeah, that team's not looking.
And I don't know. I know you read it, but do you recall what I mentioned as being the biggest reason of why the Giants were able to have that small dynastic run? Everything was built from within.
Right.
Everything got built from within.
They built that 2010 World Series team on their farm system.
Right.
And in 2011, when they
go out to the Astros, they grab Brandon Belt, they grab Hunter Pence, who's still there. They kept that core intact, and a good chunk of those pitchers, both starter and reliever, and that starting core, a good chunk won at least 2 rings throughout that 3-ring span. So when you're seeing that much consistency in a ball club, that's what it takes. And the way that they're throwing money around now, and how much it really you have to have around you to perform, because the problem with baseball is that, yes, baseball is very much a mano-a-mano sport, but it takes a lot of one-on-one battles to win that huge war. And that's what makes it so different than sports like the NFL and the NBA, where it's 5 guys on 5 guys, constant movement. No, this is not constant movement. It's 8 guys, 7 guys sitting behind, a guy on a hill, just waiting for some contact to make a play. So, yeah, like I said, at the end, the dynasty is there's always a possibility. There was always a possibility that things line up. But I will end this discussion the way I ended the article. That, yes, the dynasty, for the most part, is dead in baseball, but do not mourn its loss. The death of the dynasty brings new life to a game and an eagerness to see the elation and heartbreak that teams may feel and the roller coaster of emotion the game provides to all 30 ball clubs and their fan bases. So my first article, after the Grueling Truth, that is what it is. Again, you can find it on our Twitter page at OOLeftField. Of course, thegruelingtruth.net, it's on there, and Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham on Facebook. Give it a read. Let us know what you think. I appreciate everyone who did give it a read. It had about 2,000 or so, not nearly the amount that your Adam Jones article did, but hey, it was my first and hopefully one of many more to come. So finally,
to be fair, my Adam Jones article had a little bit of a hot button title. So
just had a clickbait. But as we get ready to go, I am very excited to say that the umpires were not last on the show today. For once in our lives, the defender of the week is going to be the last guy on the show. So, Chris Furry, go ahead and close us out. And who is taking home the hardware? Because this week, man, you are sure as hell talking about defense when you're handing out hardware this week.
Yeah, I sure am, because the guy that's going to get the hardware from me this week is definitely not lighting it up at the dish. But behind the dish, he kind of is. So I'm going to go with the young Brazilian, Yan Gomes, of the Chicago Indians. Wow. Of the Cleveland Indians.
Did they move?
Yeah, they must have.
The parking brake came loose.
He's really up there in the league right now in caught stealing percentage. He's got a 10.5 range factor. He's 16 caught and 17 allowed. And over the last 7 days, he allowed 4 and caught 3. He's doing pretty well back there, even though his .229 batting average, 4 home runs and 19 RBI leaves something to be desired offensively. Defensively, he's getting it done for the Cleveland Indians. So Yan Gomes is going to go ahead and take home the backstop of the week honors here on Out of Left Field.
You know, it's ironic, even as you say it. It's ironic just how almost more blasé you sound, because his offensive numbers ain't great, and it just goes to show how much we really undervalue good defense, because it isn't as sexy unless it comes along with one hell of a big stick. And well, this is a guy. I mean, you can put him 8th or 9th, and okay, well, there you go. You guys, you're looking good defensively, and you're doing your job.
Especially for catchers, right? Defense, especially for catchers. Now, look, Manny Machado gets back patted on his defense, rightfully so. He's a fantastic third baseman. He's got a lot of range over there in third base.
Look, but I don't care that he threw a guy out from the coach's box. Unless he's throwing him out from the warning track, I just not that impressed.
He didn't throw him out from the coach's box. He damn near threw him out from the dugout. But but that's neither here nor there. In my opinion, good defense, solid defense, especially from catchers and outfielders, is a lot like solid umpiring, right? You expect it, and then when it fails, you talk about it. Right? You expect solid umpiring, and then when they mess up, then you discuss the umpiring. Nobody ever talks about the umpiring until there's a mistake. It's the same with solid defense.
It's what you got me for, Battle.
So that's our show for this week, guys. We're really glad that you guys come back after our week off and join us for another week of baseball, another week of stories straight out of left field. And, Graham, I know you have something you want to say, so I'm going to pass it back to you just real quick in 1 second. But I just want to let you guys know, and I know I get into this a little bit every time we sign off, but we have a lot of fun doing this, and we really, really appreciate you guys listening to us every week.
Completely. And like I said, we wouldn't do the show if it wasn't for you guys. We would just do the show between ourselves because, this is about as real as it gets, two guys talking baseball.
Which is what we did for the last 8 years of our lives.
9 years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, guys, the last thing coming up the next couple of weeks, we are right near the All-Star break. So we've told you the last couple of weeks, We're going to be getting into our first half awards, who kind of is the MVP, who we think is going to be the MVP, Rookies of the Year, which that's just – look, if you've got Rookie of the Year ideas, besides from the two who's going to be Judge and Bellinger, I'm not really sure that you want to send it. But if you go, hey, bring it on. We'll take a look. We'll talk about it. But we're going to go over all the big awards, plus we'll get ready for –
If you have Rookie of the Year ideas that aren't Judge and Bellinger, you're not watching baseball this season. Maybe you're watching cricket and you're confused, but it's definitely those two guys.
There you go. But a lot of stuff coming down the pike, guys. We've got a ton of things happening in baseball, trade-wise. Going to be a lot of fun. Stick with us. Look forward to seeing you back again next week. Thanks so much for joining us. For Chris, I'm Graham. For everyone at the Grueling Truth Network, this has been Out of Left Field. We'll see you guys next week.